back once again to the imaginary gallery. It is TJ, your host, discussing the abusive mentality, and we're referencing Lundy Bancroft's book. Why does he do that? Inside the minds of angry and controlling men. We are on reality number 3. He twists things into their opposites. Emile, a physically violent dude with whom this author worked, gave him the following account of his worst assault on his spouse.
One day Tanya went way overboard with her mouth, and I got so angry that I grabbed her by the neck and I shoved her up against the wall.
His voice was filling with indignation. He said,
Then she tried to knee me in the balls. How would you like it if a woman did that to you? Of course I lashed out. When I swung my hand down, my fingernails happened to make a long gash across her face. What the hell does she expect?
Now, this is a subject that I've covered before and still find to be shocking and sickening. But we'll just proceed with Lundy's words. He asks the question, which is question number 4. Why does he say that I am the one abusing him? The abusive person's highly entitled perceptual system causes it to mentally reverse aggression and self-defense. When Tanya attempted to defend herself against this guy's life-threatening attack, he defined her actions as violence towards him. When he then injured her further, he claimed he was defending himself against her abuse. The lens of entitlement this abuser mentality holds over its eye stands everything on its head. Another client, Wendell, described an incident in which he stomped out of the house and slammed the door.
My wife Aisha nags at me for hours. I can only take so much of that complaining and telling me I'm no good. Yesterday she went on for a half hour. I finally called her a witch and took off.
Lundy asked this man what Aisha was upset about, and he said he didn't know.
When she goes on like that, I'll just tune her out.
A few days later, Aisha told him she had indeed been yelling for 5 to 10 minutes, not a half hour. However, he had failed to tell Lundy Bancroft that he had launched a verbal assault when she first woke up in the morning and had continued with it all day.
He totally dominates arguments. He repeats himself like a broken record, and I'm lucky if I can get a word in, and his language is horrifying. He must have called me a cunt 10 times that day.
She finally reached her limit and began standing up for herself forcefully, and that was when he stormed out for the night. Now, why does Wendell think that Aisha is the one who's been doing all the yelling and complaining? Because in his sick, twisted mind, she is supposed to be listening and not talking. If she expresses herself at all, that's just too much. When Lundy challenges his clients to stop bullying their partners, they twist his words around just like they do the partners'. They accuse Lundy of having said things that had little connection to the actual words. An abusive person may say,
You're saying I should just lie down and let her walk all over me?
Because Lundy had told him that intimidating a partner is unacceptable no matter how angry he's become. And he'll say,
So you're telling me that our partners can do anything they want to us, and we're not allowed to lift a finger to defend ourselves?
Because the partner told it that she was sick of friends trashing the house, and that he should clean up after his goddamn mess, there's no excuse for calling her a disgusting name like the C word. He'll say,
Your approach is whatever she does is okay because she's a lady, but because I'm the man, there's much stricter rules for me.
Because Lundy pointed out that his double standards were sickening and insisted that he should live by the same rules that he applies to her. Now, the abusive person has another reason to exaggerate and ridicule the partner's statements and Lundy Bancroft's. It wants to avoid having to think seriously about what the partner's actually saying and have to struggle to digest it. The abusive person feels entitled to swatter down like a fly instead. We've now moved along to reality number 4. He disrespects his partner and considers himself to be superior to her or him. Sheldon's relationship with Kelly was finished. He was required to enter Lundy Bancroft's program because he'd violated a restraining order, but denied that he'd ever been violent or even frightening to Kelly. Now he was attempting to obtain custody of their 3-year-old daughter they shared, Ashley. He claimed that Kelly had never looked after Ashley from the time of her birth and had, quote, never bonded with her, end quote. He also added,
I don't consider her to be Ashley's mother. She's just a vessel, a channel that Ashley came through to get into this world.
Now Sheldon had reduced Kelly to an inanimate object in his mind. Basically a baby maker, a baby-making machine. When he spoke of her, his face twisted up in disgusted expressions of contempt. At the same time, he never sounded upset. He considered Kelly too far beneath him to even bother him. He had the same attitude you might have if an annoying but harmless little doggy were nipping at your heels. As memorable as this guy's smug derision was, it was only a few notches worse than the common thinking of many abusive people. The abusive person tends to see the partner as less intelligent, not as competent, not very logical, and even less sensitive than it is. These people will tell Bancroft, for example, that she isn't the compassionate person that he is. He often has difficulty conceiving of her as an actual human being. This tendency in abusive people is known as objectification or depersonalization. Most abusive people verbally attack their partners in revolting and degrading ways. They reach for the words that they know are the most disturbing to to ladies in this case, bitch, whore, and cunt, often preceded by the word fact. These words assault her humanity, reducing her to an animal, a non-living creature, a degraded sexual body part, a breast. The partners of these clients tell Lundy that these disgusting words carry a force and an ugliness that feel like violence. Through these carefully chosen terms, and the clients sometimes admit that they use the most horrifying, degrading words they can even conjure up, the abusive people make their partner feel unsafe and debased. Objectification is a critical reason why an abusive person tends to get worse over time, as its conscience, if it even has one, if it's a cluster B, it doesn't, adapts to one level of cruelty or violence and then builds up to the next one. By depersonalizing the partner, this abusive person protects itself from the natural human emotions of guilt and empathy. And remember, we're a cluster B channel here, and there really isn't guilt or empathy with these narcissistic monsters, but kind of tying into the abuse thing because they overlap. But in this book, he's stating that by depersonalizing the partner, that protects this abusive person from the natural human emotion of guilt and empathy, so it can sleep at night with a clear conscience. It distances itself so far from humanity that her feelings, or the partner's feelings, no longer count, or simply just don't exist. These walls tend to grow over time, so that after several years in a relationship, many of the clients that Lundy sees finally get to a point where they can feel no more guilt over degrading or threatening the partners than you and I would feel after angrily kicking a rock in our driveway. Abuse and respect are diametric opposites. You do not respect someone whom you abuse, and you do not abuse someone whom you respect.
I am the Narcopath. I'm seriously thinking about another career change. I think I could be a model. Be a model for Dog World. I'd be the best model they ever had. I can shake my tail feather. Ooh.
Well, since I'm giving confessions, I might as well keep going.
I purposefully made sure that your mother got sick. And remember how she went away to the hospital? I made sure she'd be incapacitated for the longest time.
You thought I was a sweet and innocent little naive thing, but little do you know, whenever we were together,
And you thought I was in the restroom?
I was going through every drawer, every nook and cranny of your parents' bedroom, and I found that your father had a fortune. And I knew you had nothing, please. I just heard you had a rich father, so I hung out with you.
You might as well know this is a confession. I had to get rid of that witch wife of his. For that time I came to dinner, remember how my boob accidentally plopped out of my
You want to see
swimsuit?
the rest of me?
Well, honey, that was no wardrobe malfunction if you're nasty, Janet. That was a purposeful wardrobe malfunction for your dad's benefit. I went through his things when you were asleep one night. He had all kinds of Playboys. Oh my God. And I noticed that his favorite models, evidently because he had some plastered inside of his suitcase, looks a lot like me. And the first time I saw those,
I started dressing up a little bit more like those photos, so when I knew your mother was about to go away sick, I made sure that my breast accidentally plopped out right in front of him at the dinner table. And it worked!
I got your father where I wanted him, and I didn't want you to know because I didn't want to hurt our friendship. But oh, he was in love with me. I was just his type.
Oh yes, I got him right where I wanted him. His nose and mouth were nestled in between my sweet teeth. And after that incident, I decided it wouldn't be a good idea for me to come back over because I couldn't face him again. But once the wife would have died, the story would have been different, and that money would have been mine. I don't care if he loved her, like you say. What's that mean? Nobody loves anyone. They just use them. Well, I wanted his money, and I knew I could get it through you. Get over it! Well, honey, I hope you don't hold it against me. I had a lot of fun with your father, and your mother need not ever know about it. If you know what's good for you, you won't tell her. I thought I could weasel my way in to get his fortune, but evidently, I don't know what he sees in her, but he wanted to stick with her, and no matter how much I tried to seduce him, I guess he's just not the right guy for me. But I didn't want to have to face you after all this. Plus, it would be uncomfortable if I came over to dinner again. What if my boob popped out again? Especially after I had more silicone put into it. I couldn't risk that. So that's why we never saw each other again. That's the real reason. I hope there are no hard feelings.